When the Germans launched their last major offensive on the Western Front, Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, the heaviest portion of their initial assault force lay in the northern sector of the offensive. There sat the heaviest and, at least theoretically, the most lethal striking forces of the offensive. The powerful Waffen SS Panzer Divisions, Leibstandarte and Hitlerjugend, were expected to burst through the American lines along what would be called the Northern Shoulder and blast their way to the port of Antwerp. It was thought that Hitler's elite SS units would be the ones to carry the Germans to victory and force the Western Allies to the negotiating table. The 1st SS Panzer Division, Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler, was to be the spearhead of the assault in the north. A battle-hardened unit, the Leibstandarte, was filled with both young green troops and combat veterans in almost equal number. Equipped with a vast array of armored vehicles from tanks to mobile flak vehicles, the 1st SS was a formidable foe for any unit opposing them. The spearhead of the spearhead, so to speak, was a unit that would become synonymous with the Ardennes Offensive, Kampfgruppe Peiper. Named after its commanding officer, Joachim Peiper, Kampfgruppe Peiper was the most powerful force in the entire German offensive in the north. In the initial days of the offensive, Kampfgruppe Peiper rolled through the Ardennes like a slow-moving train, delayed by roads not suitable for tanks in the stout defense of locations such as Lancerat, Ligneville, and Stavelot. Peiper and his Kampfgruppe nevertheless achieved many of their objectives by December 18, 1944. Poised on the opposite bank of the Amblev River, Peiper forced his way across the river and rolled past Stavelot. Never fully securing the town, determined to make his way out of the Amblev Valley and across the Meuse. Pressed for time, Peiper ordered his rearguard units to eliminate the Americans in Stavelot and follow his advance, an order that would eventually seal his fate. By December 19th, the surprise of the German assault had worn off. No longer were American units fleeing the field of battle in front of their enemy. The American defenses had stiffened considerably. Peiper and his men had run into blown bridge after blown bridge and roadblock after roadblock, all of which were beginning to show on the ammunition, and more importantly, fuel supplies of the Kampfgruppe. 2 days earlier, on December 17th, an order had been issued to the veteran American 30th Infantry Division to deploy into position in the vicinity of Eupen, to block the thrust of Kampfgruppe Peiper and prepare to form and hold a defensive line from Malmedy to the small town of Stoumont. By nightfall on December 18th, elements of the 119th Infantry Regiment were deployed in and around Stoumont, while elements of the 117th Infantry Regiment had set up roadblocks and recaptured half of the town that Peiper had ignored, Stavelot. With support from the 743rd Tank Battalion and the 118th Field Artillery, the American infantrymen in Stavelot prepared for an attack the next morning that, if successful, would cut off Joachim Peiper from the rest of the Leibstandarte and effectively cut the head off the snake on the northern shoulder. The Americans in Stoumont sat and waited. Recon patrols sent out that night had run into Peiper's outposts. Seeing enemy Panther tanks in bivouac and hearing multiple voices in German, the defenders of Stoumont knew they had a fight on their hands come morning.